This is Sarah Milligan with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. Today's date is February 8th, 2016. I'm doing a Cowboy in every county oral history project with the O State Stories collection. I'm talking to Bill Kosanke in Lone Wolf, and Bill's son Brad Kosanke is also here with us. So that's about as formal as this whole thing gets. Just to get me started, tell me a little bit about where you're from, and I know that should be easy considering it's not very far from here. Who your parents are, do you have siblings? Just give me a little picture of how you all landed here.
Okay, this country was opened by lottery in 1901, Kiowa County, where we live. And my grandparents, both sets, one set came from Kansas, one from Texas, came here at the opening. Neither one of them drew a claim. We've never been lucky. But they bought out somebody that had one, a relinquishment they called it. Mm-hmm. And my grandparents, Kosankes, settled up here north of Lone Wolf on a quarter section of land. And my mother's family, about 10 miles up the road. Then they raised families. My dad had 5 siblings, 2 of which died in World War I, 2 days apart with the Spanish influenza in Camp Dix, New Jersey. There's more people died in World War I with the flu than they did combat. That was the family tragedy. But all of them stayed around here and raised families. Then eventually started leaving and staying away because the community didn't grow, we don't have jobs, it's agriculture. And people migrated, most of them to Oklahoma City. We got more people. All my kids are up there in that area. But anyway, that's how this community started. And I had one sister that died before I was born in a house fire, which was a tragedy. They got her out, but she died, and I was already on the way. So I'm raised as an only child. And then later on, when we got married, I raised our family here, and they're here and there, you know.
Scattered around.
This is home. And it's not much different to me than it ever was because I never did really leave to stay, you know. Yeah.
So your mom was pregnant with you when your sister died. How old was she?
Less than 2. Oh. She was a month short of 2 years. And this funeral home over here is a result of something that had to do with that. My dad was on the co-op board, and in 1934, in the heart of the Depression, when this tragedy occurred, they had an undertaker in this town, but he couldn't afford much merchandise, and they ordered a child's casket. And I guess when they finally got one, they got ripped off royally, you know. And the undertaker was going broke, and he told my dad, said, why doesn't the co-op buy this and hire me and I'll work, you know, because I'm going broke. And they got their heads together and decided to do it. And as far as I know, this is the only cooperative funeral home in the world.
That's interesting, yeah.
We own it, you know, and all that. And that was part of it coming into being. Been here since '36. And some of my friends that come by and they look around, what's that over there? And I said, that's a funeral home. I said, my gosh, how can you get up every morning and look, see the sun come up over the funeral home? And I said, let me tell you something. That's when you have the good day, when you see the sun come up. I don't want to talk about what happens when you don't see the sun come up. but that's one of the local deals, you know.
Well, no, I think that's perfectly fine. Did they, what did your parents and grandparents do? Like, tell me a little bit more about what kept them here.
The men were farmers.
What did they farm?
They farmed wheat, cotton, and everybody had a few cattle and milk cows and chickens, and you raised a garden, and you can't really say that everybody made a living, but in those days you lived on what you made. There's a difference, you know, there wasn't any welfare or that. So the people stayed with farmers and branch off into related things to agriculture, you know. That's about, well, I left twice. Of course, I went to college, and then I went to the Air Force. In the 50s, we had a draft. And you pretty well knew when you got out of high school, if you didn't go to college, you were going to be drafted. The guys, I was going anyway, but then when I knew I was going to be drafted when I got out of college. That wasn't what I went to college for, you know, to go in the Army as a dog face for 2 years after I got a college degree. So we had mandatory ROTC. We had at Oklahoma A&M, as it was then. You had the Army and the Air Force, and I didn't figure I'd ever be a pilot or anything like that, but I noticed that the people in the Army and ROTC had to go over to the Army and clean their weapon every week. The Air Force didn't do that, so I went the Air Force route. We went to summer camp after junior year.
Went to junior year of high school?
No, college.
College?
The first 2 years is mandatory. You could quit after that.
Of
Or
ROTC
you could go
or-
into advanced, and then you graduated, you had a commission, second lieutenant. I went that route, and it was a 3-year thing. But sometime between my graduation and the Air Force calling, they changed the rules. They were tired of bringing people in the Air Force for 3 years and training them to do this and that, and then they got out and went to commercial airlines and all that, so they raised the tour to 5 years. Yeah, to somebody 22 years old, that's a long time. But they had to give me the option of going to navigator school and being in the Air Force for 5 years, or we'll send you wherever we want to, or whatever we need for 3, and I took that option. They sent me to Blaine, Washington, which is 30 miles south of Vancouver on the Canadian border, and a radar station. And our mission was to pick up the Russian Air Force, the Bear they call them. Scramble the planes, go up and shoot them down. That was our mission. Well, thankfully it never happened, but I spent my 3 years and got out and got a job with a New York insurance company and going to be a farm loan man. Somewhere along the line, I got up one day and I wasn't too happy with my boss, which means he wasn't too happy with me. I said, you know, I think I'll just go home. So I came back here and floundered around and picked up something here and there.
Were you still in Washington at that point, or did you?
No, I'd come home.
No, when you were selling insurance.
No. I was, they hired me and they sent me to the corn belt, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, for 3 months to get me indoctrinated in that. And as fate would have it, here years later, Brad, the employers, bought these John Deere dealerships in Iowa, and he went to Cedar Rapids. I said, I was up there 50 years ago, and all I remember was they had a big Quaker Oats mill in the middle of town. He said it's still there. You can tell what flavored oatmeal they're milling today. So then they sent me to Mississippi Delta. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee for a few months, and then to Oklahoma City. And this was supposed to be my home territory. It just didn't work out too well. I decided I'd just come home and do my first love and make it or break.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
Back full circle. So you're, I have a couple more questions about what it was like growing up here when you were younger. So you said that your family, they were farmers, so you grew up on a farm. Did your family have any problems since they were doing wheat and that sort of farming? Did they have any problem with the Dust Bowl era stuff?
No.
They may not have down here. I don't know. I'm just curious.
Repeat what you said. I'm not sure.
Do you have any memories of your family having problems with the Dust Bowl time period?
Oh, yeah, they had big problems with it, but I came in on the tail end of that. I was born 3 weeks after that biggest dirt storm in United States history. My mother talked about putting wet rags on the windows and all that, but I was just a kid. But what happened was the population of the town shrunk by half in 10 years, in the 30s. They had a special census here in 1925. If they had 1,500 people, they could get mail delivered to the houses. Well, they had 1,400 and something, but 10 years later, we were down to 700, and the trend is, you know, you can go to school here, but you got to leave to amount to something unless your family's. We got basically about 10 farmers now that are doing the job that 100 did a few years ago, you know,
Yeah.
doing it better. But the downside is that those 10 people replaced 100. That affects your churches, your school. And
Mm-hmm.
we grew up going to church twice on Sunday and all that. And we didn't know. I guess practically everybody was poor, but they didn't know it. I guess they knew it, but everybody else was in the same boat, and you helped each other, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If a farmer got down, we've done this forever. You'd get together and go put the crop in or something, you know, and they'd do the same for you. It's a good place to grow up.
How big was your school or your classes in school?
Well, I started first grade, there's 42 of us in this room, and the teacher cried every day because one of them had a problem and he made noise all day long, you know. And we didn't know the difference, but he made John Deere sounds and talked all the time. And she was getting whipped out. And one Monday morning we came to school and she was crying before we even started. And I thought, what's Gene Tucker done now? What we didn't know was that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor over the weekend and the world had changed. And her boyfriend was going to be drafted and go to war. Our lives changed over the weekend. We didn't even know it. But people went off, you know, when they came back, the late 40s, it wasn't anything for them. More people would have stayed here, but there wasn't any industry or jobs.
So, do you remember a lot of young men then leaving from Lone Wolf to go to the World War II?
Oh, yeah. They had a grocery store downtown, and in the front windows they had it was benches set up, and they had pictures of the Lone Wolf men in the Army and the Navy and all, and the pictures on that. And then every so often they had a gold star, and and they were killed in battle or died, you know. We had probably a dozen people graduated here that was killed in the war. One was sunk in the Mediterranean Sea, and one was blown up when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in the Philippines. They also bombed in the Aleutian Islands, and there was a lone little boy up there. He was one of the first people killed in World War II. So every able-bodied man from 18 to 35 was in the war, you know. Some came back and managed. My father-in-law didn't have to go because and my dad was a year over the draft limit. So they weren't in the war, but most young people were. And in the school, 42 in the first grade and 21 graduated. We had 50%. The people just weren't here anymore, you know. It wasn't that they couldn't make it in school.
It wasn't that they dropped out, just that their families left.
The people that were slow, they just kept them an extra year or two, you know. They didn't throw you out on the street.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you remember much about going to school? Do you remember what it was like in high school? Did you feel challenged or interested?
You know, I was satisfied with being in. We played football, we played basketball, baseball, we had FFA and all that, just like other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we had people come out here and play college sports. My cousin Dale Miner, 2 years older than me, went up there to A&M, played football for 4 years, went to Canada and played for a year and 2 years in the Air Force, and went on to play 10 years in the NFL, and came back here and coached for a while. But unfortunately, we know now that he was a victim of the concussions and it caused brain damage. Spent the last 20 years of his life with just nothing there, you know.
Mm-hmm. And who was that, your cousin? What was his name?
Dale Miner.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the Hall of Fame up there,
Mm-hmm.
Stillwater. And he was an academic All-American, maybe the first one. He was a hero.
Well, so, tell me about what got you interested in going out of high school from here to Oklahoma A&M.
Well, I guess I was vaccinated with that needle when I was old enough to walk. You got to start getting ready for college. There was only one college. I never had heard of OU.
Tell me why there was only one college.
Well, my dad, he was died in the wool orange. Stayed in touch, you know, because I remember when I was probably 10 years old, we'd have speakers come down here to our annual co-op meeting, and they'd get people that had something to say, you know. Dr. Bennett, you look back 20s and 30s, he was the president up there. And my dad was president of the co-op board. And somehow or other they talked Dr. Bennett into coming down here and speaking. Of course, we had him out to the house. He didn't have his wife with him. I think we invited a couple people. I was about 10 years old. My dad sat at the head of the table, and my mother spent most of the time bringing food in and out. The women didn't engage in the conversation a whole lot in those days, but she did. She liked to mingle with the people, you know. She's a school teacher. And my dad was kind of worried about my etiquette, I guess. And I was taught, to be seen, not heard. Here's the big man. He's sitting where you are, and I'm sitting over there, and my dad's here. I wasn't encouraged to participate, but they kind of grilled me on what to do, to be polite and all that. And I'm sitting there, and Dr. Bennett just acknowledged that I was drawing breath, I guess, turned to me and asked me something, and it was a yes or no answer. It was a gimme, And I said, yes, ma'am. And I thought I'll never be taken out in public again, Yes, ma'am. But
what did he do?
I don't remember what he did. But there was some open mouths there. I realized immediately, I overcame that. I met the great man once after that. He didn't remember it. Didn't change his life any.
That's good to know. So what made your dad choose to go to A&M? Did you ever talk to him about that?
I don't know that he did. Because nobody in his family had ever been to college. Mm-hmm. Well, there was 5 of them after those 2 died. The older kids just went to the country school and they were through after the 8th grade. Well, the last 3, my dad and his 2 sisters came to Lone Wolf and graduated, and they went on to college. It was a different family, My dad got on a train over here on this Rock Island, rode to Chickasha or somewhere and took a bus to Stillwater. But what motivated him to go there, I don't know. But they all graduated and were successful. We were expected to follow,
So you and your 2 aunts' kids?
Yeah. Well, Aunt Pauline, she didn't have children, but they adopted 2 kids, and she taught home ec down here for years until she retired. Those kids are in Oklahoma City are doing something. And my other aunt, her daughter lives out here on the farm. She wanted to stay home, got married at 16, did the best they could, and they're here. And then the boy that was 3 years younger than me, he went to college, Southwestern, I think, got a degree and taught school and this and that, and then went to work for the state, and he's down here in Aldous, and he comes up here every Thursday. He's got a farm he inherited out here. He calls it the ranch. It's mesquite trees and rocks mainly, but he's got them in a little hideaway out there. He calls it the ranch, and his wife calls it the money pit. I saw him this morning. But then the next generation, they're here and there, I doubt that there's over 3 farmers here under 40, and they're with their parents and all. The opportunities are somewhere else now if you're ambitious and want to do the most you can with what you got. They're all welcome to come back any minute,
Do you think whenever your parents expected that you would go to school, you and maybe your cousins that were expected to go to college, that they thought that you might be the same, that you might not come back?
Well, they probably did, but they might have wished I had. I don't know. We never, it's just something I was going to do after high school, and they were all supportive. I guess they might have hoped I came back, but they wouldn't have stopped me if I didn't. There wasn't any pressure. Says, you're coming back here and all that, none of that. The world's out there and we're here, and I went around enough to know, you know, when I came back, this is what I want to do. And I started borrowing money and all that. My friend in the bank that went to A&M 2 years ahead of me, I'd go in, he'd see I had some clothes hanging in the car there. I was single, which means I was leaving town for the weekend or something. He'd check, make sure I was coming back. You got this paper here, you know, to deal with. No, I never felt any pressure to leave or pressure to come back.
Yeah.
Life's what you make.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about then moving from Lone Wolf to Stillwater. When was that, and how did that go?
That was probably September the 13th, 1953.
Maybe somewhere around there.
Give or take. My parents took me up there and enrolled, and I got a room in Cordell Hall.
Who?
Cordell Hall.
No, who was with you?
Well,
Did you say
my
Raul?
mother and dad took me up
Okay.
there and left me. Told me I could come home with my cousin Dale Thanksgiving. I didn't have a car.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't want me to have a car. I moved into this dormitory, and that building's still standing there, next to the football stadium. I don't know what it is now. I was in 108, and here's a boy from Thomas, Oklahoma, and we spent 3 years together in that room, Lone Wolf and Thomas. He broke up the relationship over his junior year or something. He got married, and that I wasn't welcome. I could say something, but it might not. You might have to edit it. But I'm gonna say it anyway because it's funny. Those Thomas guys, if they had a saying, they thought it was the biggest one in the world. And Larry Jones always, they talked about dates or something, you know, there's 12 guys to one girl up there. We didn't even call anybody, didn't have a car, wasn't gonna get a date. And he always had that Thomas expression, says, I'm okay, he said, I sleep between Faye and Bessie every night. Well, that's 2 towns. Thomas is in between Faye and Bessie. We got married, they invited me over there one night, and I went over there and kind of blew that deal. I said, well, Jones, you still sleep between Faye and Bessie? He got red in the face, and she got mad, I guess, and never invited me back. We're still friends, still up there in Thomas, and here I am. Gotta be careful what you say, I guess.
Or when you say it.
And after 3 years there, made a lot of friends. And 3 of us decided our senior year that we'd kind of cramp our style. We got a car now, you know, we might accidentally get a date or something and go to a movie. We got to rent an old duplex house down on North Main. It's long since fallen down, went down the creek, but these guys, one of them was really intelligent, but gifted, I guess. He got a PhD and taught something out in New Mexico. All of us were successful, but that year was kind of a disaster. It's a good thing we didn't move out sooner. But that was part of the education, you know.
What was the disaster about it?
Well, we discovered that there was a pub across the street from our house there, and we could eat a chili hot dog or something, and drink a brew, and And from time to time, there's a little too much beer and not enough hot dogs, but we got through that. I never even told them that deal, but they knew that we were getting a little more level education, you know, we're going out in the wide world, we gotta blend in. And we all went our separate ways, but we pretty well kept in touch. My old roommate's still up there, Thomas, and his son's farming with him. I lost touch with some of them, but that's a long time ago.
That's true, but as you know, you still kind of know where everybody is. That's impressive.
When we had our 50-year reunion, which was 9 years ago, it's hard to believe, but there's about 45 of us in that class of 57, agriculture, came back up there. That was a big occasion and we really enjoyed it. But you know full well, you know, you probably never see most of these people again, but that's not today. Here we are, and what I noticed was it didn't make a difference if somebody was a bank president. One guy was the dean of agriculture at Texas A&M, which is high as you go there. People, different careers, lawyers and all this, but nobody talked about what you done, what you're gonna do. You just turn back that page about 50 years, and for a day, you know, we were back in the good old days.
Yeah. Well, so was Stillwater an adjustment for you when you first got up there? Do you remember your first couple of weeks moving to Stillwater from here?
It wasn't a great deal of adjustment because I was in that dormitory and I walked to classes.
Yeah.
I knew where on Tuesday we were gonna march out there. And Campus Corner was closest thing to, if you'd a foot, you know, walk up there to a movie or something. And we were just kind of isolated there from we weren't in the fraternity, you know, somewhere, and we kept in touch, and that was neither here nor there. But I didn't do a whole lot of adjusting, I think, because you just settled into your routine, and that's about what you could do.
So, you majored in the agricultural school.
Yeah.
Was there ever any thought on your end of going to anything else besides agriculture? How'd you land on that?
Well, I landed on it because that's all I knew when I went, you know. But then I didn't go into the cattle part of it or the field crops. So I really kind of left the School of Agriculture because I was in agriculture, economics, and about half our courses were in business schools. I got a little bit of orientation to something beside agriculture. I don't know. I don't guess I ever had a 5-year plan or 10-year plan. It was, here's what we're doing now, you know. I didn't get married till I was 34. So.
That's old.
Yeah, it was old. The man's 8 years younger than me. But last year, one of her friends came up here and was talking to me about her condition and all, and how bad that was. She said, I'm going to tell you something I never told anybody. She said, I tried to talk her out of marrying you. And we're out here in the cemetery. I'm helping her trace some of her ancestors. She's in Texas. I wondered why I never was around you much. I said, Janie Hicks is coming, but I never did see you. She said, but now she's lucky to have you. I said, yeah, thank you.
Did she tell you why she felt that way?
because I was older. She said, I told Ann, says, you know, he's going to be an old man and you're going to be wanting to go places and do things and he's not going to. And she was right. But we did pretty much what we want to do, that you could do with the family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Should have taken more vacations, seen more, done more, but there's always something else to do, I guess. We took a family trip or two. I guess they remember. Do you remember when we went up there to Idaho and I came back as a wheat commission meeting in Idaho. So we took the van and we went through all the places I'd been on the trip when I was a kid. We went to Denver and saw the dinosaurs, and we went to Yellowstone. We went on up through there to Idaho and then out to the ocean, back down. I wanted to make sure they swam in Great Salt Lake like I did, get salt in your eyes and all that. What a disappointment. 1,000 miles we drove, my two cousins was with us. They were a little older. We ran out there and jumped in that lake and went under and got our eyes full of salt, our hair standing up. What a letdown. But you got in there, didn't you?
Yeah.
It's something you got to do.
Did he throw you in? It sounds like he was so
I just
eager for
remember
you.
floating. I remember just floating in
You
this
had to
big
go
salt
out there
lake.
far enough to float. There's just two places in the world you can do that, Great Salt Lake and the Dead Sea.
Did you do it when you were a kid? Did you go out
when
there
I
and
was
float?
12 years old, we took a trip through the 11 western states.
Mm-hmm.
This Dale Miner kid was with us and another older cousin. If there was something on the map, we did it. We went to Grand Canyon and Boulder Dam and Golden Gate Bridge and the ocean and Great Salt Lake and the whole bit.
How long did that trip take?
About 2 weeks in a 41 Chevrolet. I don't know how we got 3 kids and 2 parents and any luggage in that thing. It was a 2-door, but we did. Didn't know any better. We saw the redwoods. Everything on that map within the vendors, I think we saw it.
That's an epic vacation.
Yeah, been there and done that, you know. Yeah, I remember that. And Las Vegas wasn't any big deal then. They didn't have any strip or any of that, you know. We had the Golden Nugget and a few deals downtown. We went through there. Stopped at about every pottery or Indian blanket place on the road, I think. All that stuff, the free zoo, they'd have some animal back there, you know, that it's free to go in, but you had to pay to get out. I hadn't thought of this stuff for years. That's enough of that, I guess. I made sure they saw some of those things, you know, that I'd seen. And now they've been places I've never dreamed of. See, I've got Irish ancestors and had German ancestors. He's been to Ireland and Germany. Did John Deere have a factory in Germany or something?
Yep.
They sent you to go check out the factory in Germany.
And then the Irish, I think he won that trip. And I told him, says, when you get over in Ireland, if you get a chance to go to a pub, see if there's any Duns in there. Because if there's any left, they'll be in the pub. Because they's all pretty good to bend their elbows. He came back and says, I made 2 pubs. I don't know if there's any Duns in there, but says we were, they'd have a good time. I think they started out in the Irish famine probably.
Wow, that's some big families though. I'm sure there's some stragglers.
I don't know how much this you stand.
No, I'm totally fine. If nothing else, I'm entertained, but it's also interesting. So, when you did decide, you can get that if you want. I can pause it.
I did it.
Okay. When you did go to OSU, I know you talked a little bit about you got used to it pretty quickly. Like, I guess the campus wasn't. It was pretty contained.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. Downtown was kind of too far to walk unless you really wanted.
Yeah. So, did you end up dating much? You talked a little bit about that, but not really. You alluded to everybody around you.
Yeah. Not for 2 years. Well, couldn't get too excited about going over the door and walking the girls to campus corner and back. But when most of us got cars after 2 years. Then I made an effort. It is pretty tough because you consider 12 guys to one girl, and we figured out pretty soon that some of those girls had a boyfriend back home, some were pinned to a fraternity guy or something. Oh, we got acquainted best we could.
Mm-hmm.
I remember having a blind date with a girl for the senior prom. And we got down there and we had the 4 lads. They were the big deal then, singing Moments to Remember and all this. And we're out there mingling around and everybody just stopped and went down front. Jan Garber Orchestra and the 4 lads, this is big time stuff. Everybody sat down on the ballroom floor there, the girls with their formal prom dress and all that. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm probably going to have a cleaning bill over this girl's dress here. And I thought, oh, I bet she's sick of this. And I remember her because her name was Ann. And I'm thinking, she probably thinks this is a downer. And she says, this is a moment to remember. I said, I don't remember this. I said, oh, okay. We're all right here. Of course, I left and never saw her again. But in that directory there, I look up people and I wondered what happened.
The alumni directory.
And that girl was the head of a principal or something in the school, or department head or something. Did well.
And probably still remembers that.
Yeah, I do. So that was one day out of many,
What were some of the things that happened on campus? Did they have any sort of like homecoming? Did you go to sports? What were some of the things you did?
Yeah, biggest homecoming in the world, just like it is now. But I wasn't too fond of it the first 2 years because ROTC had to march down there downtown and all that. One year in the dorm there, we got Danny Williams, who was a WKY Oklahoma City icon, over the years. We spent the night before homecoming putting crepe paper and chicken wire. We made this rocket. Danny had this show, 3D Dynamo or something. He had this was 53, anything would seem like nothing now, but we made this rocket and we got him up there to ride in it, He had a robot and we put one of the guys in the dorm in that thing and marched. We didn't know those shoes were lead. He ended up getting an operation after that, 2 miles of that. Old Danny, he was whistling everybody, but we won the homecoming float deal because we had a celebrity there.
It's a good strategy.
And Oh, we all went to sports. We had tickets that were paid for with our tuition. We could see odd or even basketball games. There wasn't room enough for everybody for every game. And when I was a senior, OSU had a great team, but Kansas had a better one. They had Will Chamberlain. You heard of him. And they had beaten OSU up there in Kansas, and everybody thought, wait till we get to Stillwater and this drive up hill. Yeah, we figured around. I had to ride a ticket. And people were waiting for a month, you know, to get Wilt Chamberlain down here and Ivor Gallagher. And people came from all around. There's Kansas people coming through the dormitory with $20 bills for a student ticket. And some guys were taking it. I said, that's a lot of money, but they're only gonna do this once, you know. I'd had an instructor tell us when I was a freshman, says, you gotta establish priorities. Says, your kids, said, when I was up here in 1934, we played pool with swims. And I said, we were getting ready to leave class and go over there and get a pool table. And I said, I'm going over to college auditorium, says Will Rogers is speaking today. Oh, we can see him anytime. I said, I went to hear Will Rogers. He didn't come back. He was killed in 35. He said, but I was there and those guys can't remember who won that pool game. Said, you established priorities. Said, so that was a priority to me. I was at that game and we beat them.
Tell me about the game. Do you remember? Were people excited when he came out?
Yeah. But Mr. Ivor put two people on Wilt, one in front and one behind. They didn't have any shot limit then, you know. And I think we were tied with about 6 minutes to play and we got the ball. People wouldn't stand for this now. They'd throw things and walk out. But they stalled the ball for 6 minutes to take one shot. If you hit it, you're gonna win. They said Eddie Sutton shot it, but it was a boy from Amarillo, and he hit that. 2 seconds left in the game, we won. Stormed the court and all that, and then went over the college president and demanded a walkout, and didn't get it, and people was, somebody threw an egg and hit the dean of men. That didn't help the cause any. But I came, Bob Willis and I said, we're going home. Just got in the car and I forgot to get gas, and we run out of gas out there at Queen Thomas at 2 o'clock in the morning. Went home the next day and my parents got all over me. You cut class, but as luck would have it, they gave us a walkout, so I didn't miss the class, but that seemed like a big deal, you know. And I still remember it, but it doesn't amount to anything. It's a basketball game.
Sounds like a pretty rowdy experience, though.
Yeah, it was. There was probably the wildest thing that ever happened when I was in school. We were, the 50s, we were pretty well trained. We knew what rules were and we knew we were supposed to obey and we knew the penalty if you didn't. And we pretty well walked the line. It was the 60s when the guys burned their draft card and the girls burned their bra and all that, but we went into that. But the wildest thing, I guess, that ever happened was they had a panty raid up there. That was starting, you know.
Wait, who did where?
Okay. It made the press, you know. One girl threw a pair of panties down, one guy picked them up and they took his picture and put it on the front page of the Daily Oklahoman. He was expelled. And that girl, she was from Roosevelt, I think, and just did it for egg somebody on, you know. No way, didn't tear the doors down. Nobody got raped or nobody, but it was against the rules and everybody knew it. This girl, Roosevelt, she told us this later, says, this came out in the Daily Oklahoman and my mother got the paper and read that, and this girl and all, she called Judy, says, Judy, were you in this? Yes, Mother, that was me. I knew it. Her mother said, this girl told us this later, you know. Yeah, it was me, Mother. They brought the fire truck out and turned the hose on everybody, and that was the end of that.
Did they really?
Yeah.
So was this just a group of guys that went to the girls' dorm just to be ruckus?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was something that was going on campuses at that time. We just happened to be, yeah, it was the only time it happened there. That was risque. I mean, that was outside the limits there.
That would be memorable,
Yeah, it was.
especially since it made the state
You know
newspaper.
by now that I've got all these stories, and my lawyer over here at Hobart, he's 10 years younger than I am, but our dads went to school together, and we do things together besides, well, he's kind of related to Ann, I guess. And I bring up some of these deals, and I said, there's a lady coming down here to get some information from me, and I don't know what I'm going to do or what can I do. And he said, well, your stories are more entertaining than anybody else I know from up there. And I said, yeah, they're entertaining, but they don't have any merit. They don't go anywhere. That's just something that I remember.
That's the most interesting ones.
Hmm.
Well, if you think of anything else like that you want to share, please just jump in. But I wonder if now isn't a good time to talk about what you did after you got your degree. We talked a little bit about it because you mentioned the whole shift into the Air Force.
Yeah.
But maybe let's talk a little bit more in detail about that. So you opted for the 3-year plan with the Air Force, and you got shipped to Washington, is that right?
Washington State, the jumping off place.
Yeah.
And it was a radar station, but I wasn't trained for radar. They made me a supply officer for that deal. And we had this big radar thing. That was our mission. We had a technical supply and we had a unit supply. A unit was basic everyday things, supplies and all that. But our mission was to keep that thing on the air because we're defending our nation, and you don't want to slip up and not have the part for something that goes out there. We had inspections and all that to remind us that we're not up there just to put in a day, But my job was nothing glamorous about it. It took them nearly a year to find something for me to do and some place to send me because they were used to sending everybody to flight school. So I ended up as a supply officer, which was fine with me because I would never been a pilot anyway. And it was, we knew we were in the military, but it was pretty laid back, we had 180 guys. Our little town was about the size of Lone Wolf and had 12 beer joints and stuff. Wasn't anything to do there,
Supply and demand.
unless you went to Seattle or Vancouver or somewhere. It was just something to do for 3 years and ready to move on. I could have stayed in there, but
Yeah.
there wasn't anything. Yeah, it wasn't something that stimulated you, you know, to gather up the laundry on Tuesday or something, all that kind of stuff. Anybody could do that.
So when your 3 years came up, you took the exit.
Yeah, and then I got that traveling job through the university. They had these deals, you know, people were looking for this and that.
Like a job fair?
Yeah.
At OSU?
Well, one of my professors gave me this lead, and I interviewed with the person from this company, and they hired me to. Well, I was a trainee, you know. I was going to be trained to be a district manager, like my boss had 4 states: Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and it would have been a big deal, I guess, if I'd stayed with it. But I wasn't getting along too good with the man in Oklahoma City. I got along good with these others. Come find out, he had fired 3 trainees before me because he was turning 65 and he was forced to retire, and they were making him train his replacement. Well, that doesn't work out. I'd been in the military 3 years and thought I'd taken enough orders to last me for a while. I just went in there and requested a transfer to Denver. He said, I want you to do something. He gave me a tablet and he drew a line. I want you to write everything over here that you like about this job and everything over here that you don't. Well, I got hung up on what I didn't like because I wasn't happy, you know. And over here, I liked the money. And I looked at that and I said, I've answered my own questions. He did me a favor because I wasn't going to be satisfied doing this. I just went in there. He said, well, let me see what you got. And I showed him what I had. What I had was I turned in for my 2-week notice I'm leaving. And he admired me for that. He said, I just had a feeling that I wasn't your problem, that you wasn't going to be content doing this.
What did you not like about it? Do you remember what was in that column?
No, I really don't. I just decided that my personality wasn't. This job, you went out and we had a limit. We didn't loan anything under $100,000, and you better know what you're doing, you know, because there's people out there, some of them will default, and that's going to come back on you and all this. I just decided, I guess, that I didn't, at least at that time, I didn't have the drive that I needed to succeed at that. And it was the right thing because I had put in the application to Prudential. They had the same thing in Prudential, and I had 3 college friends over that worked for them. They said, man, we got a good deal here. I said, you apply for that? Well, I did. I didn't hear from anybody for about 3 months, and I'd come home, borrowed money, and bought a few cattle, and I'd go farm. They called me up and said, we got a county for you in Kansas when you want to report. And it was the man, the state manager. I said, man, I appreciate it, but I've already committed to something, and I'm going to stick with it. If I'd gone up there, I could have done that, but I would be out of my territory, I guess. I just didn't want to be in an office every day in Kansas somewhere when my heart's somewhere else.
So were your parents still here when you came back and decided and borrowed some money to buy some cattle?
Yeah. My dad was managing his co-op by then. He'd been on the board forever, and we had a manager that he'd been a pilot in World War II, Korea, and he'd flown missions, and he came back here because this was his hometown, retired, was managing that, but he had a reserve flight he had to make every month somewhere. 3 of them went up on the mission, got in a thunderstorm, those planes went like this. His plane, he bailed out, it was crashing, but he was dead when they found him. Here it is, the middle of the year. They talked my dad into finishing out till they could hire somebody. When he retired 15 years later, they did. And he was a natural for that, you know. So that opened up the farm for me because he had a job. Of course, he helped me. I was only child and all that. It wasn't like I was going to sink or swim here on what I did today, you know. If I mess up today, you fix something tomorrow.
So how old were you when you came back here?
27.
The ripe old age of 27.
The first thing that happened to me was I hurt my back and I had this surgery in Oklahoma City where I got the staph infection, which I have yet.
That was in your 20s then?
Yeah, 27 years old. And I'm laying there in the hospital for 2 months looking at the ceiling and wondering what next, you know.
What happened for you to get a back injury?
We raised sheep, and we had to get sheared every year. And we had a man from Hobart come over, and he would stay and shear as long as however many you had. And I was picking up this wool and putting it in the sack, tromping it, and bend over all day. I hadn't been exercising for anything like that. The vertebrae messed up or something. I went as far as I could go with that and had the surgery, and they took a bone out of my hip to graft it in my back, and I got staph infection in surgery.
That was in the 60s?
That was 1963. And that stayed with me, but...
So you were in the hospital for 2 months?
Yeah, in isolation. 4th floor of St. Anthony's at night, I could look out that window and see the beacon on the First National Bank, and that was it. That and 4 walls. That was the low part of my life right there. Because I found out later they crossed me off. I wasn't going to live.
Because of the staph infection?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Were your parents up to visit you?
Mm-hmm.
Did your parents come up to stay with you some?
Oh, yeah, my mother was up there practically all the time. My dad was there when he could. The guy that, one of my best friends now, they hired to be an undertaker. And after 2 months, he told me I'd go home. My dad sent him up there to get me, and I'd never seen him. And here's the funeral director coming. I drank coffee with this guy this morning. We laugh about this. I said, yeah, if they'd told me he was an undertaker, I'd have stayed up there. Somebody else come get me. Malcolm.
Tell them what they brought you home in.
It was a car that the funeral home picked up bodies in. It wasn't an ambulance.
Was it a hearse? Like the long?
It wasn't their hearse, but when they went to pick up a body, bring it in, that's what it was. I'm laying there, and they gave me a shot. Where I was feeling no pain, we started home. The alternator went out on that thing. It was getting dark, and my dad drove in front of that thing, and he followed his lights. We got over to Hobart. You go down ours, and there's dips. And Malcolm there had been down that street, and he hit that first dip, and I went up and hit that ceiling. I said, there's 5 more. We hit every one of them. I said, I don't know what kept me from killing you when I was able. Now we're best friends.
So they had you stretched out then in the back?
Yeah. Gave me a shot of morphine or something. Sent me home.
So how did you adjust when you got back? Because were you
slowly.
still farming then?
Yeah, but I wasn't much good for 6 months or so, and I had lots of help. One guy came to see me up there. He's 3 years older than me, and he's the toughest guy in school in Lone Wolf. He was up there, he was a salesman for U.S. Gypsum. I heard I was over there, and he came over there. He met a girl down there at the nurse's station that he knew. And he asked where I was, and she said, I'll take you down there. Here Don Godfrey shows up, was a stranger to me, but I'm laying there, 104 fever or something, out of it, you know. And he looks at me and says, you're in the best shape a person can be. He says, you're broke, you don't have a job, you're sick. I says, when do we get to the good news here? He said, you got nowhere to go but up. And then I heard him down the hall, this girl told him, said, I guess you know your friend's gonna die. And old Don just blew. Kosanke's not gonna die, he's from Lone Wolf. Like nobody from Lone Wolf ever died. I told him a few years ago, said, you know I bought into that nonsense, and I was nowhere to go but up. I was a lot closer to going 6 feet under than I was up. But said I took strength out of that. I said, this guy, he's the toughest guy I know. And he said I can whip him. We drink coffee 2 or 3 times a week. Every once in a while we bring that up. Ho, ho, ho.
Where do you get together for coffee in Lone Wolf?
Right up there on the last place in town at the convenience store. CJ's.
Just curious. So how long did it take you to get back up to full strength, or as full as it got?
Probably a year.
Yeah.
But my dad was doing what I couldn't do, you know. He would have been doing it all if I had to come back here. So when he retired, and it was all mine then.
How'd you meet your wife?
You know, I really don't remember meeting her. I was in the 8th grade when she started school. I knew the family, McConnells, they built this house, but they were younger than me. So when I came back here, she was already finished college and she's teaching school in Denver. She's home for the summer. I looked around, I don't know if she'd go with me, but nobody else is gonna. She'd be the best I can find. And interesting enough, she went out with me and we kind of got, I don't know if we were in love, but we were spending time together, and she went back to school. I went up there to the Western Livestock Show, rode up there at the Emil Greaser, and I spent time with her up there, and she came home for Christmas, and we got engaged and got married 21st of February. I better write that down. 21st of February is the anniversary. I remember, but it just happened, you know. I don't know if she thinks she could have done better, but I couldn't have. I never asked her.
Was she okay with coming back down here?
Yeah. Because this was home, you know. Her dad was a big farmer. I remember, well, I was 34 years old. She says, you got to go with my dad said, "No, you need to talk to him." What about? Well, you got to ask for my hand in there. We still do that. So yeah, we do it here. Well, he's a tough guy. He's a self-made man. I walked in there and I told him I loved his daughter and you take care of her. Yeah. He told me two things. You're not going to rent any of my land, and you're going to take that damn sheepdog there with you when you had a big sheepdog. It was the girls. He was wanting to get rid of that. When I came out of there, years later, even now, I said, I don't know if he ever gave me your hand in marriage or not. He gave me that dog. We just got married.
Was the dog in the wedding?
Heck, no. Mopsy. My bad experience there was that she kind of got arthritic and she's laying out here on my pickup one day and I backed over and she went in the shop and passed and we had a little service there and cried and this and that. But she was given to me.
Yeah. A concession. So, how many kids do you have?
3, Kristen, Suzanne, and Brad. And what, you're 39?
Yep.
He's the, can't call him the baby, he's taller than I am.
So all raised in Lone Wolf?
Yep. Oh, I went right across that stage right down here. Went on out into the big wide world. Did well.
And you said,
But they all know they can come back anytime. You don't have to, but you can. That's the way it was in Maine. It worked, you know. Don't feel like you have to do this or that. Like I've got a daughter that's a doctor. And when she comes home, you know, she sees what's going on to nursing home and all, and maybe you ought to do this. And Suzanne works with children. And I said, here I've got these people in the medical profession, but they're pediatricians and child care. I need a geriatric daughter or something. Something for us old heads.
so how long did you end up farming?
Well, I'm still doing it some, so I came here 63 and I'm still here. That's 52 years. I've rented out most of it. We farm this place here and one that the kids have already got down there by Lugert. I rented out the rest of it to people in the family and good farmers. But it gives me some reason to get up in the morning, you know, there's something to do. Hope you do it right.
So what are you still farming?
Wheat. I don't have any cattle anymore, and it's a good thing I don't because I started having this back trouble I couldn't have taken care of and go out there and feed and break ice and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have to, so.
How long did you do cattle farming?
Well, 40 years, I guess.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Raised sheep for over 30 years. Cattle and sheep both. Sheep require a lot more work and care. And when my dad started managing co-op, that was a little much. He didn't need that. And he got colon cancer and lived about 1.5 years. And we got rid of him then before because he couldn't get out there and do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I don't know, time, when you stay in one place and do the same thing, it all kind of runs together. can't tell you what kind of wheat crop we made in 1978 or what year we had the worst drought, or any of that. And you just, it's there, you know. Whatever it is, you do what you can.
What do you think some of the biggest challenges to the lone wolf community is? You've talked. I'm asking because you've talked a lot about people leaving, and you know that's a common thing for a small agricultural town. But what do you think some of the challenges and what might bring people back if you've thought about it?
Oh, I've thought about it for years, but there needed to be some industry somewhere. Aldous is probably the closest town where there's any. They got that Air Force base that pumps them up and irrigated cotton and all that. But even Aldous doesn't have things, you know, where you could live here and commute and all that. Very few jobs like that. Hobart's got a plant over there that's just, I guess they've employed 200 people for years. And some of the people here work over there, and now they're going to close that plant. Headquarters in Chicago or something. And I thought it was profitable, but there's just not anything coming in here that we need to promote.
Yes.
Yeah, give me a Kleenex there.
I wonder. Well, what do you think's going to happen to the town?
Yeah, it's just going to dry up and blow away, I guess, because I got a feeling it's the last year for our school, because this Oklahoma 10% deals. Like I said, we're the last one on the, we'd be the first one off probably.
Yeah, you were saying, I think before we started the interview, that the Lone Wolf Schools right now is it the smallest and the smallest school in the state?
425 or something, and we're the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we made it this far really, but the quality of education hadn't suffered. We're on a 4-day week now. They go Monday through Thursday, come earlier and stay later. Now, the governor said other schools are going to have to do that, you know, to get through this. We're already there.
Have you seen much influx with like immigrant families or anything? A lot of times in agricultural towns you see that.
No, because the farms here are all family farms. One man or two people can farm 1,000 acres or more, you know. You got the equipment and all that. We don't have row crops like Aldous down here where they have to irrigate and that. There's hardly anybody got hired people here. They do it themselves or the family. Maybe I've got a cousin down here that helps me, that he's 65 this year, I guess, but he can still do the things that I don't. I don't have to tell him what to do, and he sees it, and if he got a problem, he goes and gets it fixed. It's just like, you know, I don't worry about the farm. We've got our plate full over there at the senior citizens and my problems, and the farm's the least of our problems. It's doing well. You're mostly dependent out here on rainfall, and we've had more rain this year than any year on record. Should have prospects for good crop. Wheat is laid by. You don't do anything till harvest time unless you have spray for insects or something. He's in the business, you know, the equipment. And the equipment it gets more sophisticated and you can do more than one person, and you got GPS in there, things that I don't understand, but it's big business, but there's not room for many people. 10 people are farming now, what 100 used to, you know.
Yeah.
Before my time, it was horses and mules. I can't imagine that, but my grandpa's farmed with horses and mules. When they got their first tractor, they thought they'd never see another poor day. You look at one of those tractors now and wonder how anybody could ride that thing, or steel wheels, pulling a 3-bottom plow or something. But that was, everything is changes, you know. High tech, it's past me, but best I can do is try to keep the battery charged on this thing. His kids and the rest of them, they got something there doing things, you know, that nearly have to take it away from them to eat. I don't know what they're doing, but I need to get some of them down here and set some of these things. Everything's, well, I guess it's changing faster than it ever did. Apple and all those, they're coming up with a new wrinkle every year, and then the competitor does something that, well, Bill Gates, you know, that's about as far as you could go, but Apple, I don't understand any of it, but I get a call there every day from AT&T, a recorded message. Said, you're a good customer, we're offering you the faster internet. I pulled the plug on that computer a year and a half ago, you know, and said, I'm not even on the internet. Well, I'm not talking to a person, but he'll call today. The Carmen calls. We need to talk about credit card. Well, they're going to raise the interest rate, but they're going to give me a special deal. I never paid interest on a credit card. When I get it, I pay it, you know. And Carmen, that's Carmen. Well, today, that phone, the land phone rang, the AT&T deal, I'm considering taking out, except Suzanne's person's an AT&T engineer. I feel like I owe him something. But anyway,
Lots of changes.
I won a cruise trip to the Bahamas there today, right before you came. I thought it might be you. I answered, oh, congratulations, you won a cruise to Bahamas or something. That was a recording, but golly.
Well, you're not getting bored.
I just tell people I'm a dinosaur and I'm the last one, and I'm not going where you're going. Guy came here the other day with Dish. Well, the kids gave me this big screen in here, and the only thing I have to worry about is when the kids come and put their games in there or something and leave it on that other stuff. I got to call and see how I get back on channel 4, 5, 9, and 13 at 5 o'clock. One day there, that screen pulled in. I punched something, you know. Here I got the 50-inch steel and I'm watching 3 feet. And Suzanne and Frank, her husband, were on a vacation. They were in Connecticut and they was going through the New England, and here I am. She called to see how we were. I said, I need to talk to Frank. Said, this picture's pulled in, and Kristen was here. And she said, get Kristen to take a picture of that and send it to me on her phone. I said, she can do that? Yeah, she can do it. Well, she did it, and then he called me and says, push that asterisk number down here on the last, I pushed it and the screen came back. They're in Connecticut. And I'm sitting here in the dark, you know, what am I gonna do?
The world keeps moving.
Yeah.
World keeps moving. Well, so I think for me that was the area I wanted to talk about. I don't know, is there anything that you wanted to make sure that he talked about that we didn't talk about? For you or for me?
I don't know if there's anything else specific, you know. I mean, he's obviously
I'll just
huge.
get farther out there in left field somewhere and you know, pull me back in.
You know, he's been a huge OSU fan,
Yeah.
Posse Club supporter for years, and
Probably charter member.
things that they've done down here with Alumni Association and in this area, he's been involved in that. Just anything involving OSU, he's been supportive of that.
We've got a deal coming up in 2 weeks. Kiowa County and Greer County have had this honors banquet for years with the junior students, and all of them went through it. Both counties about to fold up, so we got together. We're still doing that, and it still works, I guess. I don't know what the university thinks of it. They might just as soon pull the plug, but it's good for us.
Why are you so supportive of getting kids to OSU? What's the draw for you?
Well, I guess it's just because it's been so important in my life, and I know what kids can do, you know, if they have a little guidance and support. And I want to be a help to somebody. And if I can help somebody help themselves, that's good enough for me. Otherwise, some of those kids, they just get out of school and wander around a while, you know. I think we're doing a good thing by encouraging kids to pursue their education, whether it's OSU or where, you know. That's something that the people from the university tell them, says, here's things you need to do as a junior to get to work on your SAT or any of that, you know, when you're a junior. So if something slips or something, you can go back and get back in line and all that. And says it just doesn't have to be our school, but you need to do this or that. And encourage them to do it, you know. That's what I kind of like to do. Some people, I had a coach one time says, secret to coaching is, says, some kids you have to pat on the back and some you have to kick in the rear. He said the secret is knowing which one. And I'd like to pat somebody on the back if I can.
Is there something that you take away from your time at OSU that encourages you to sort of push people in that direction?
I guess what I took away is probably any place I would have gone is the connections you make, the people you meet, and the people you stay in touch with. And that can be in business, or it can be sports, or it can be anything, you know, but to me it's kind of a group thing, and you belong to something you can be proud of and try to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I've done some of that. I've tried.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've been an active part of a group that's done a good job with that. I know there's a lot of kids that come from this corner of the state that at OSU. Yeah, there's a good encouragement in that. Good encouragement.
I get calls from the student callers, you know. Of course, I contribute to the ag is it now? CASR or something?
Yeah.
Whatever that
Yeah.
is.
Kasner.
Yeah. That's
Yeah. And football on the seats, you gotta buy your tickets and then you pay for the seats. I've done that for years. That all goes in that pot. And then there's my dad, there's a scholarship up there in his name that the co-ops that he worked with put together when he died. He was instrumental in the cottonseed oil mill in Oklahoma City. He was on that deal for years, and the grain dealer in Enid, and the cotton compress, and they all went together and set this scholarship up. Well, and I always didn't want to go to that banquet. She says, we're getting credit for that, but that's not our money. I said, well, that's. So a couple of years ago, I put some money in it, and I said, we're not panhandlers now, we're invested in this. So I turned that over to him to go up and present that, but he can't make it every year either, but that's helped a bunch of students.
The scholarship.
3 or 4 a year get $1,000 out of it or something, you know. And they all have to write a letter and thank you for it before they get the money. That's good, but all of them are appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the satisfaction I need, you know. One of those kids that was calling a couple years ago said, "You're from Lone Wolf." I said, "That's right." I said, "My grandmother graduated Lone Wolf." I said, "Who is it?" "Jane Smitherman." And she's about 4 years older than me. That was her married name. This was her granddaughter. I said, "I know your grandmother very well." And she says, "Well, I'll tell her I talked to you." I said, "Well, you tell her I sent my best and tell her to behave." I'm telling somebody to tell their grandmother to behave. Because she'd be the first to laugh.
That's a good connection. Well, do you make it up there very often anymore?
Not as
Stillwater?
often as I'd like to. We made one game this year. I've had season tickets for 50 years.
To football or basketball?
Football. 3 years ago, Ann and I went up there, homecoming, I guess. And I knew she'd been falling, and I really didn't want her to go, but I can do that. We got over in the stadium, when we got ready to leave, she fell on one of those concrete steps where you have to pull yourself up. J.W. Nashburn and a couple of guys, we got her up, walked across the street toward the car, stepped off the curb there by a farmhouse and fell in the street. And we never talked about it again, you know. She knew that's it. But about once a year, they'll work it out where I get up there to the game. One of them come out here and stay with the mother and do whatever. It's home away from home to me. I always said if I was gonna live anywhere but Lone Wolf, it'd be Stillwater. One day, 20 years ago, we were going up there to a game, and there was an old bachelor here, big supporter of OSU, and he was riding with me. We got up there, and they'd taken dorms down that they'd built. And I said, used to, we marched out here, ROTC, where all these buildings are. I said, Elmer, we need to do something to give a place for old Aggies or something, assisted living, and nobody you'd think of something like that. Well, now they've got that deal up there. What do they call it?
I can't remember the name of
The
it.
ranch or something there.
Yeah, the retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
Brad said, "You just 20 years ahead of your time." Now they're building this thing. Wes Watkins is out there, I think I see his name associated with it.
He is. Yeah.
Well, it's, everything changes and it's still my alma mater and always will be.
Mhm.
I don't know anything else I could shed any light on.
That's pretty good. I don't know. Brad, one last chance. Do you have time to think of anything else you want to talk about?
He's heard my story forever, you know.
Well, that's why I'm asking him.
He knows I was up there the year Pistol Pete shot a hole in the wall.
You were outside the classroom.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
I'm on tape somewhere about that thing on my 50th anniversary. Somebody said something about that. One of my friends, Bill was out there. He know. If somebody came and took, this is up there somewhere.
Mhm.
We were just sitting there, you know, and this old, you know who Pistol Pete was, Frank Eaton, the U.S. Marshal. Some say Rooster Cogburn and True Grit was patterned after his character. He was supposed to kill 6 people with avenged, he avenged his father's death and all that. Some say those stories are embellished and all that, but he was talking to our Oklahoma history class. And there's boys and girls both in there. When he got to the end, any questions? Always somebody said, Pete, let's see that famous fast draw. And I actually wasn't in there. I was in the section waiting to come in outside. And he pulled that gun out and shot a hole in the wall of that classroom building, and nobody had any idea the gun was loaded. You know, this 90-year-old man out here. And when it's time for that class to change, some people's running out and some was staying in there, and we were marching in. And what happened? They told me, you know, and he made his talk to our section, but they had his gun. I'm glad I saw the old man, because he died the next year. And I saw Pistol Pete up close.
Do you remember what the kids outside the hall did when that gun went off? Did you know what it was?
No, we didn't know what it was. We knew he was talking, but we didn't even know when they were coming out. That some of them was afraid to come out, I guess. It's kind of, yeah, it was something different.
This is probably not suitable for print, but tell them the story about the old infirmary. That's back before the student health center and your friend that tried to get out of marching.
You probably don't want that on
I might.
the old infirmary. You've heard the song St. James Infirmary when people all died and all. That thing up there was pretty weak, but they had 2 policies. Anybody came in there for anything, they did 2 things. They gave them a shot of penicillin and an antibiotic. That cured a lot of sprained ankles where guys got out of marching, you know. My friend Homer, you can go out there and march if you want to. I'm going to get an excuse. Sprained ankle. Homer, don't go over there. I was a year ahead of him. Well, he called me. They didn't have cell phones, but he got to a phone somehow, and they'd put him in there, took his clothes away from him, gave him a shot of penicillin and enema. Billy, you gotta get me out of here. Says, I'm in this first, I'm gonna raise the window and you come through that flower bed and get me some clothes and get me out of here. Well, he bragged, you know. Says, Homer, if you're sick, that's the best place for you. And the next day he came in, he had a few choice words for me, but he never went back. My roommate and I had a pack. If either one of us got down, we would take the other one to the hospital.
Stillwater Hospital.
Stillwater
Skip the
Hospital.
infirmary.
Yeah. But now it's all different. It's first class now.
I haven't heard that one yet. That's good.